Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. My name is Dan Jones. I'm host of The Dan Jones Show, and today I'm going to be reviewing the absolutely epic, the amazing Mavic 2 Pro. I'm going to go ahead and full disclosure say I'm very happy with this product, but I am going to go over the good, I'm going to go over the bad, and I'm going to show you all the different flight modes that this thing can do. Let's talk about what you get out of the box. I have the original box, and of course I picked up the Fly More bundle. Now, I'm a big fan of the Fly More kits, but honestly with this one, the value was just getting the extra batteries and the charging hub. Also, the car charger was definitely a very nice add-in. So this actually has saved my bacon once or twice. So that's something that's pretty nifty to have. However, the bag wasn't as good as the one that came with the Mavic Air. For example, when you put the drone in the bag, you really gotta watch that the props don't catch the fabric because it'll bend the props, which I think could do damage to the motor. So I'm very weary about that. In fact, I don't really use this bag all that often. It's a nice bag, but it just doesn't do the job when it comes to storing the drone. So as far as the Fly More kit goes, this is sort of the thing that is the weakest part of it, honestly. You get a bunch of accessories, you get all the little cables that come with it, you get the little charging bank hub thing, you can turn your batteries into a charging bank for your phone or your controller. Of course, you get the hub, and that's just some of the stuff. And you get some extra props as well. I always forget to mention the rotors, the propellers. As far as what comes in the package with the drone itself, well, you get a battery and you get a controller and you get the drone. And of course, the basic charging bank. But yeah, with the Fly More, it's definitely worth it to get that hub because you can get those batteries going all at once. Just set them and forget them, and you're on your way flying. I've owned this drone since March of 2019. And so far, I absolutely love it. Full disclosure, I love this drone. Now, I'm not sponsored by DJI. I'm not paid to say any of this. I've had some good experiences with DJI. In fact, I accidentally crashed this drone. Got a new one. This is the DJI Care Refresh drone right here. So let's watch the intelligent flight modes first, because honestly, I want to show you the type of footage this thing can produce. I want to show you what this thing does in action, and then when we come back, we're going to talk about what I like about it, what I don't like about it, what I think could be improved. The Mavic 2 Pro, like all DJI drones and many drones out there today, is very easy to fly. Utilizing GPS and an array of sensors, it holds its position easily in the air, making it a perfect drone for all pilot skill levels. If capturing still images and great video is your goal, I highly recommend any drone with this type of feature set. The obstacle avoidance on the Mavic 2 Pro works very well. The sensors are in the front, the rear, the bottom, the top, and of course the sides. However, the side sensors only work in tripod mode and active track mode. APAS is an option you can use to have the drone kind of automatically find an alternate flight path around you or the object. Use with caution though. Active track mode is probably one of the most popular drone modes ever. There's the follow you mode, which basically tracks you from the rear and it will go back or forth depending on which way you are moving. There's profile mode, which tracks you horizontally. So if you're moving horizontally, left or right, the drone will follow you. And then there's my favorite mode, which is spotlight mode. Spotlight just has the drone sitting in one place and the gimbal and the drone rotate to follow you. You can ascend or descend the drone as you see fit, but it just stays put. Quick shots are kind of the gimmick of the DJI products. Now, don't get me wrong, quick shots droney mode is one of my favorites to use, and boomerang and rocket are pretty cool too, but for the most part, these are a one-trick pony. use to impress friends or maybe make cool videos with the family. Either way, it's a real easy way to get your drone to fly a very specific path. Point of interest mode is absolutely a favorite of mine because you pick a thing you want the drone to fly around and it just does. It's very, very easy and it looks great cinematically. Rotates clockwise or counterclockwise at various speeds, an easy way to get cinematic footage. And of course, tap to fly. You tap the screen, the drone flies in that direction until you tell it to stop. It can go forwards or backwards, and it allows the drone to ascend or descend, again, depending on which direction you have it going, automatically. The three basic modes on the controller are P mode, tripod mode, and sport mode. P mode is position mode and is the default that gets you up to about 30 miles an hour horizontally. Tripod mode is to slow everything way down, allows you to adjust the horizontal speed, the vertical speed, and the yaw rate, which can really give you cinematic looking footage. Sport mode is the exact opposite of tripod mode. The sensors are turned off, it will go at full blast speed. You gotta be careful with this, but it is a lot of fun. I've gotten mine up to about 45 miles per hour. And cinematic mode is, as the name implies, a way for you to get cinematic looking footage by basically turning the braking sensitivity way, way down. The drone becomes like a hockey puck on ice. It just sort of glides to a stop instead of stopping suddenly. Hyperlapse mode is a reason to buy the Mavic 2 Pro because it will automatically produce footage like the one you're seeing right now. It stitches a bunch of pictures together into the video file that you're viewing. Absolutely epic feature. Unfortunately, I was not able to create any footage of the Waypoints mode, but 51 Drones, a great drone YouTuber, has a good video about this. You should go watch it. I'll link it in the description down below. Now let's talk video quality. I'm going to be shooting an H.265. First up is going to be the hybrid log gamma or HLG color profile in 2.7K at 60 FPS. I'm going to make some slight adjustments to the aperture and shutter speed to try to get the best exposure possible. And I'm going to show you what HLG footage looks like raw right off the SD card with no color grading. You're going to want to use HLG if you're going for that HDR effect, getting some good contrast and good color tones. Now I've toned it up a little bit, as you can see in this video, and I just toned it up to my personal likings, adjusted some contrast settings, adjusted the color, but this is just to give you an example of what you can expect right off the drone. Next up is the none color profile. This is basically the drone as is with no color profile. This is what you're going to want to watch if you're not going to do any color grading. This is what the drone will give you with nothing added to it, which is pretty gorgeous. Now, that said, even though you're not adding a color profile, you still can do some color grading in post, which is what I've done with this clip right here. And of course, last but certainly not least, the D-Log-M color profile. Now, right out of the box, the default D-Log-M is going to be a very flat, kind of like the HLG, but you get this live view option in the app, which kind of gives you an idea of what it's going to look like in post if you apply the LUT that DJI actually provides. But here it is, the D-Log-M footage with no color grading. Very flat, very basic colors. But we go ahead and apply a LUT, do a little bit of color grading, and you can get some absolutely epic, gorgeous footage coming out of your DJI drone. No ND filters were used in any of these clips. However, if you're going to make good cinematic footage, you should be using ND filters. Speaking of epic pictures, these are some photos taken with the Mavic 2 Pro. I've added some duplicates to show you what the images look like after I've done some processing in Darktable and GIMP, and then what they look like raw straight off the camera. So hopefully this gives you an idea of what the Mavic 2 Pro can produce with no editing from you. And if you want to use free software like Darktable and GIMP, which are very similar to Photoshop and Lightroom, this gives you an idea of what you might be able to produce with the Mavic 2 Pro's camera. Absolutely epic for photography. So there were some of the intelligent flight modes and some video footage produced by this drone. Now I'm going to talk about what I absolutely love about this drone. First and foremost, the range you get from this drone. You absolutely get epic range with this. Now I think they say like 8 kilometers if I'm not mistaken. Of course, I would never take it that far because I'm going to keep it within visual line of sight, not just because I'm law abiding, but because I don't want to lose track of it. However, I will say, as far as the OcuSync 2.0 goes for this drone, 100% video, the feedback coming from the drone to the controller to the phone, the video feed is so good. It blows my mind compared to the Mavic Air. Now I'm not going to do an apples to apples comparison because you just can't with those two, but the Wi-Fi connection between the Mavic Air and the OcuSync connection with the Mavic 2 Pro is night and day. This thing streams back at 1080p, which is fantastic, so I can actually get a good idea of what I'm filming and what I'm trying to frame up. The other thing I absolutely love about this is the video quality. The video quality of this drone is absolutely epic, and the pictures this thing can take. Now, again, not to compare it to too many other drones, there's a lot of great cameras out there. And honestly, if you're not in the professional photography market or professional video market, which I'm really not, you don't need to take advantage of that 10-bit camera, 1-inch sensor that's on this thing. However, having it is absolutely stellar. It's absolutely epic. Gives you some gorgeous video. That D-Log-M LUT that DJI provides with the D-Log-M profile enabled on this thing, you will get some amazing color in your shot. It is absolutely mind-blowing. Beautiful, gorgeous videos and pictures. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not editing with Final Cut Pro. I'm editing with a copy of Vegas 15 Pro. I got it from a Humble Bundle for like 25 bucks. So if you can snag one of those deals, you can edit and use LUTs and get that gorgeous D-Log-M footage. And even if you don't have high-end video editing software, you can still do some pretty damn amazing things with this, with like a free version of HitFilm or many of the other free video non-linear timeline editing softwares that are out there. So even if you don't have something that can apply a LUT, like with D-Log-M, you can still get some gorgeous shots with this thing. Another obvious love is the compact size of this drone. This thing, while not as small as the Spark or the Air, folded up, this thing is still pretty darn small for what it packs inside. That 1-inch camera sensor is absolutely gorgeous. It flies so stable, so quiet, just absolutely beautiful in flight. But I'll tell you what, that battery life, the sensors, the flight modes, all of that fitting in this small, tiny little package, not to mention this controller, very similar to the Mavic Air and its predecessors. It's got the removable joystick, making it even more portable. I picked this up on Amazon for a few dollars. I think it was like $5 or $6. It came with a joystick protector for it. It's designed for the Mavic Pro, but this actually fits perfectly around the Mavic 2 Pro and helps protect the props when in transport if I decide to carry it in a bag with other drones. Probably the thing you hear the most when it comes to the Mavic 2 Pro is the battery life. These batteries, they say like 31 minutes, but I definitely get about 20 to 22 minutes of actual flight time while recording with the sensors on. I know there's some things you can do to maximize that a little bit, but I usually get about 20 to 20 minutes, which is still pretty stellar. The Mavic Air, I do about 14 to 15 minutes, so every extra minute up in the air is absolutely welcomed when it comes to trying to get that awesome picture, that awesome video shot. Anything to help you stay in the air longer is absolutely epic. So I'm really a big fan of the battery life of this thing. Not to be the guy to compare it to all the other drones out there, specifically the Mavic Air, a drone I actually own, sitting right here next to me, while much more compact, has these very short, rigid props, making it sound like a horde of angry bumblebees when it's up in the air. Not my favorite thing about the Mavic Air. However, the Mavic 2 Pro, much quieter. With these foldable props, you're getting, and a much bigger, wider props at that, you're getting a much lower pitch sound, a much quieter sound. At 200 to 300 feet, you can barely hear it. I mean, it's almost a whisper. Again, the Mavic Air gets up to 400 feet and you can still hear the angry bumblebee sound. So as far as things I love about it being so quiet, absolutely awesome. Now we're gonna talk about some of the meh, the bad, the not so great. Some of these are pretty lame, I'll admit. They're not the most, oh my God, terrible things in the world, and some of them are, I think, kind of not so great. Considering that this thing out of the box, the base set is $1,500. There's a lot that I feel that DJI could have done better for that much money. Honestly, this one's pretty stupid, and I just put it out there just now. I added it to my video, is the charging cable, the power cable that comes with the battery bank. Now, this one I believe is actually for the Mavic Air, but the Mavic 2 Pro's cable is not much longer. This is what you plug your hub into to plug it into the wall. This is way too short. Look how short this cable is. Now, the other one, again, is not that much longer. I've actually provided my own because I just thought, where am I supposed to put this? I normally plug things in at a surge strip, which is located on the ground, and I set my batteries up on top of a table. So this was not a big deal. It's not a deal breaker by any means. You can easily get a new power cable. I just thought that this was a weird thing to sort of cheap out on. One other thing that the Mavic Air has that this thing doesn't is this case that it just comes with. It just comes with this hard shell case, which is really awesome that I can fold it up, put it in this case. Now, this doesn't come with anything like that unless you buy the Fly More, and then it comes with that bag, which isn't really much of a hard shell case. You're gonna wanna protect your $1,500 investment, right? So I thought that was kind of an odd thing to leave out, especially considering it's a foldable drone. A foldable drone like the Mavic Air, which comes with a hard shell case, this does not. I think that's something they really should have included or designed. The gimbal settings. Now, the Mavic Air allows you 3 presets for the gimbal for the controller. When you're doing the gimbal settings, it's really nice to have a couple of different presets. One of my favorite things about the Mavic Air is that I can have 3 different ones depending on what I'm filming, how fast I want the gimbal to move up and down. With the Mavic 2 Pro, you get 1. If you want to make changes, you got to make changes to that one. Why does the $600, $700 drone have more features than the $1,500 drone? I think that's a little weird. I'm also not a huge fan of the fact that they nerfed the camera on this thing. This is a 1-inch Hasselblad camera sensor. This thing is fully capable of 4K at 60. However, I believe, my personal opinion, that they didn't want to cut into the sales of the Phantom 4. So 4K 30 is what we get. I'm a huge fan of 60 FPS. I think it looks better. I think it just looks smoother. And I'm also coming from the gaming world, not the cinematography world. So when I'm making videos, I'm trying to make them look as gorgeous and as smooth as possible, which is why I would have loved to have had a 4K 60 camera on this thing. Didn't happen, it is what it is. Instead, I shoot in 2.7K, 60 FPS almost 100% of the time. It's relatively easy for my computer to handle. As far as editing goes, it still looks amazing, and I'm getting that higher frame rate. There are use cases for that 24 and 30 FPS. I'm not saying they're not completely useless. I'm just saying that this drone's computer and camera are both fully capable of delivering 60 frames a second, and they decided to nerf it, in my opinion. This one might kind of seem, again, sort of, you know, lame, like why would you say that? That doesn't make any sense, but I do feel that this has sort of a cheap feel to it. It's got a hollow lid on it. It just feels kind of cheap. Again, I'm not trying to do this apples to oranges thing, but the Mavic Air, while smaller and more compact, feels like you paid the money you paid for it. The gimbal cover even feels like quality. It doesn't scratch up the camera. See, the gimbal cover on the Mavic 2 Pro actually scratches the top of the camera. Now, that's not a huge deal. It's just some plastic, but it does scratch it up. I think that's kind of a poor design. The other thing I've noticed, the first one I had did this. This one doesn't seem to do it as much. The arm gets hung up. When you're collapsing the rear arms, it gets stuck on the body. I think that's something of an oversight on the engineering side of this. I'm not complaining and saying it makes it the worst drone in the world. I'm just saying that for $1,500, that's really something they should have maybe fixed before shipping out. I'll also mention this, that unlike my first drone, my first Mavic 2 Pro, this one is a lot better put together. I don't know if it's just a newer version or what, but these screws are all flush to the body, where the first one I had, this one specifically, was sticking up, and that was as far in as it would go. And this one wasn't quite flush, and this and these two were completely flush. So I thought that was kind of just a weird way to put the drone together. Now this one, they're all 4 flush. Just little things I noticed that made me question the craftsmanship of this particular drone. Again, it's really more of a, this costs $1,500, yet it's kind of, you know, hollow sounding. It's got, you know, very cheap plastic feel to it, and it scrapes and rubs when you fold the drone up together. The gimbal cover scratches the camera. You know, that's just some stuff that at that price point really shouldn't be happening, in my opinion. The last thing I have to complain about, my last dislike about the Mavic 2 Pro, is the focus. The Mavic Air has this infinity focus where basically everything that's kind of inside the frame of the shot that's kind of close to the drone is going to be in focus automatically. Everything further away is going to not be as in focus. What's really cool about that is that the thing you're usually focusing on, pun intended, is going to look just fine without you really having to do anything. The Mavic 2 Pro, however, is not that simple. You get the autofocus continuous, which allows the drone to just automatically keep refocusing. Now, this is what gives you that breathing effect where it's in and out of focus, in and out of focus. As you're flying, the autofocus, which is just a tap to focus function, where you tap the screen and that's where it's gonna focus. Or in my case, I have my C buttons programmed on the back of the remote to allow me to just tap that button. It'll focus in the center, and I use that religiously when filming with the Mavic 2 Pro. Or the manual focus, which allows you to dial in the focus as you see fit. Now, the manual focus is kind of cool because you can just set the focus and forget about it. However, there's some issues with that. For example, what you're filming 500 feet away is not going to be the same focus as when you get 200 feet closer to it. You're going to have to make adjustments as you're moving in a lot of cases, especially if lighting changes or if your height changes or distance or angle. A lot of things can change, and the manual focus may not be the best way to go because you're going to have to maybe make some changes and adjustments as you're moving the flying camera that you're controlling. The autofocus continuous, of course, as I mentioned, is just that it's going to give you that breathing effect. That may be the easy way to do it, but it's not going to give you the best quality or more professional looking image for that matter. However, it is very easy. Set it, forget it, fly. AFC, go. Now, the autofocus is the way I like to go, but even with that, I have made the mistake of filming something, spending 20 minutes up in the air thinking I was capturing this gorgeous image because the screen that I'm looking at is this big, and really, unless it's really, really out of focus, you can't tell if something's just slightly fuzzy with the phone. An S9 Plus, great screen. Sometimes I just can't see that it's just slightly fuzzy. I get it into the computer, I fire it up and I go, I just spent 20 minutes filming this and I got that. And sometimes you just can't even fix it in post editing. So it is kind of a pet peeve of mine. There is the peak threshold setting, which is pretty cool. You can set the peak threshold where basically it's going to highlight things in red that are in focus, and depending on how you set the threshold, high, close, near, is going to basically determine how much red you get depending on how far away or how close objects are to the camera. Now, what I don't like about that is that it highlights everything red, and sometimes that makes it difficult for me to kind of get an idea of what I'm trying to film. You know, I'm gonna maybe want to see what the colors kind of sort of look like, even though I'm not getting that true post FX color scheme. It is nice for me to kind of frame up that shot. So when it comes to the autofocus and the focusing in general, I'm just not a huge fan. Some things I picked up for the Mavic 2 Pro that have helped me enjoy it even further is this tablet holder by Freewell. This is the tablet holder Lite, I believe, and I'm gonna do a review of this down the road, and the link is in the description down below. But this thing is absolutely a must-have when it comes to any of the Mavic Air or Mavic Pro drones with the foldable controllers. Now you can get a phone in there. I usually fly with my S9 Plus, and as far as that goes, it doesn't quite fit in there comfortably. This allows me to stick in much larger phones and also tablets if I so desire. So this is absolutely something I recommend you pick up, whether you have a Mavic Air or a Spark or even a Mavic 2 Pro. The other thing I picked up was a pair of these 1-foot USB Type-C. Now I'm an Android guy, so I'm not going to be using the Lightning or whatever it is for the Apple, but I actually like flying much better when I have a USB cable plugged into the bottom of the controller and then into my phone. This also makes it much easier to use that mount, and then it also gives me a little bit more flexibility as to which side my charging port's gonna be on the bottom of the controller. It can be left or right oriented instead of just on the one side, the left-hand side. I don't much care for the little attachment dongles that it comes comes with. It's just very limiting, and it's not something I'm very comfortable with using. The other thing I absolutely recommend you make the investment in is, of course, in this case, Polar Pro ND filters. If you're gonna be doing anything this level, you better be getting ND filters. Now there's lots of different kinds, lots of different price ranges. These were kind of expensive, but polarized ND filters for the Mavic 2 Pro are absolutely a must-have. These will definitely gorgeous up your video footage. Should you buy the Mavic 2 Pro in 2019? I absolutely would say maybe. If you have $1,500 laying around and this is something you're really looking at doing, I think this is a great way to start. An expensive way, but a great way to start. I'm not going to say that this is better. It's just not. The Mavic Air is a great drone, and it's really great for the money. But is it better than the Mavic 2 Pro? Not in my opinion. The video quality is good. The picture qualities are great. But compared to the Mavic 2 Pro, it's just not as good. Now there is a big price difference. This is almost twice as much. Now, is twice as much worth it? That's up to you. I can sit here and tell you that as an amateur drone pilot, somebody who's pretty new to drones this year, having now owned the Mavic Air, the Mavic 2 Pro, a Typhoon G, a Bugs 3, and a few others, this one blows everything I've used out of the water. Oh, don't forget about the Phantom 3 and the Phantom 4. Great drones, great cameras. This thing has all those checks that I was looking for. It's portable. It's got great battery life. OcuSync 2.0 is absolutely fabulous. You can fly this thing out, get great video back. Absolutely the best thing about this drone, honestly. All these things make this the best drone in my opinion. There are better use cases for maybe just wanting to sort of play around, get some video shots. In that case, I'd say definitely go with the Mavic Air. Or even the Autel Evo. Everything I've seen come out of that thing looks amazing. But again, the Mavic 2 Pro has a lot that a lot of these other drones just don't have. The Active Track 2.0, significantly better. The point of interest, way better on this than the Mavic Air. The OcuSync, cannot stress how amazing OcuSync is. So hopefully you found this information useful, and if you did, hit that like button. Leave a comment down in the comment section below. Check out the description for all the stuff I've got here, and really anything you have to offer as far as feedback, advice, critiques, whatever, leave them in the comments. And also you can go to that thing where it says about, send me an email if you have any questions. I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible. Thank you very much for watching. My name is Dan Jones. This is The Dan Jones Show.